Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Indigo Stars, and today I want to talk about something that is very familiar to me, and as far as I know, is also quite familiar, sadly, with a lot of people in the ASMR community, and that is anxiety. I'm no doctor, I'm no expert on it, but I am someone who has gone through anxiety and is still going through anxiety for a large part of my life. And I just wanted to talk about it because I think it is important that people talk about it and that people feel like they can talk about it. Anxiety itself is a mental state which has a lot of symptoms. The most common symptoms are things you're probably familiar with, even if you don't suffer from any sort of disorder. And that is that when you feel anxiety, when you feel anxious, you can feel tightness in your chest, maybe even up to your neck, feeling like you have trouble breathing. It can be paired with a lot of worrying thoughts, racing thoughts. You can just feel fidgety, feel like you can't relax or sit still. You might get sweaty palms. That's basically what you can expect during an anxiety attack, and most of those symptoms happen during them. But then there's also a lot of side effects from it that you don't necessarily feel just during an attack, but can follow you throughout the day. And these are feeling of hopelessness, feelings of depression, just mood swings. There's just a ton of symptoms out there. And when you suffer from something like an anxiety disorder, you basically feel these things almost constantly. You feel like you can't catch a break from it. Every moment is just centered around how you feel, and you're hyper alert on any things that might feel weird, like if you have a pressure in your head or headaches or anything like that can just set off a whole stream of thoughts and just starts this worry cycle. And there's a lot of information about anxiety to be found in books and online. So if you want to know more, there's a lot of ways to do that. For me personally, I have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. I've always been kind of an anxious kid, I guess. A lot of trouble meeting new people, especially when I was really young. I had anxieties about my things in school, getting things done, getting good grades, my social standing, which was horrible. And then around 5 or 6 years ago, I started getting a lot of, like my mood just started dropping. I just felt myself having depressive episodes. I saw a therapist for that. And then around 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, I had a massive panic attack while I was on holiday with friends. And I just couldn't seem to snap out of it. At first I thought it was homesickness, which it might have been in part, but I was just having heavy panic attacks constantly. And when I got home, it went a bit better because, of course, I was in a familiar surrounding again with my parents, and people were just keeping an eye out for me and how I felt. It went better for a little while, but eventually I got back in a constant worry, constant panic because I was so afraid of this feeling of pure panic. Just thought that I was really sick and that I was gonna die and I was gonna have a heart attack. Something was wrong with my brain. I just became very fearful for everything, basically. I started avoiding going outside, things like public transit. I didn't want to go to school, I didn't want to work, I didn't want to go out with friends because I was just so afraid that these panic attacks just could happen anywhere, these anxiety attacks. And the result of that was that I was constantly anxious. I constantly had this feeling that some great doom was always looming over me and that was never going to get any better. So I spent a lot of time sitting in my room behind my PC, just being completely out of it, just not experiencing life at all. And since then I have followed a few therapies. I had two part-time therapies, I guess, which was 3 days a week that I was having therapy. And these were talk therapies, but also in groups like creative therapy and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I read a lot of books about it. And eventually I got back to individual therapy again. Actually had EMDR therapy, which is commonly given to people with PTSD, which is the post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder. Kind of depends on which country you're from. So that's some of the therapies that I have gone through, and I've learned a great deal in them, especially about where a lot of my anxieties and problems came from, which is in a large part due to being bullied very severely in school. And that evolved with a whole slew of other problems that either happened to me or that I made happen, basically due to my behavior and choices in life. And the situation now is that I'm still getting therapy, but I do feel that because the therapy I'm following now is more in depth about me, what gets me going, what kind of behavior that I get into when I'm not feeling well. Some of the early signs for if I'm getting back into that really that feeling that I just have to hide away, that I just have to just hide in my own mind, basically, and just not let anything of the outside world in. So I'm not better, I'm not healed, I'm not nothing like that, but I do feel that I am on the right track, and I know that I can become better. I do believe that when you spend so much time focusing on this disease that you have or disorder that you have, that after a while you start to identify with it. It's not like I'm Lisa and I'm a creative person or I have these and these passions. No, it's I'm Lisa and I suffer from anxiety. And I basically started, well, it's been a while now, but started seeing myself as someone who has anxiety opposed to someone who has a whole set of likes, dislikes, things I'm good at, things I'm not so good at. So basically you can start taking over your whole life, especially if you let it, in a way. And something that I have suffered with, and I'm suffering from sometimes when I feel really down, is the feeling that I'm going crazy, that these weird sensations that I feel, because that's kind of what I call them, are not just symptoms of anxiety, but are symptoms of me falling into a psychosis. psychosis or becoming delusional or has become crazy. And I think that a lot of people have felt that way, that suffer from anxiety. It's a really common thing to start believing about yourself, especially when it's just taking so long. You just keep trying and you keep feeling a bit better, but then you just fall back down. It can be really, really frustrating and really demotivating and just bring down your entire mood. And I do believe that everyone that suffers from anxiety or things like depression or maybe even dissociation or derealization, depersonalization, which personally are things that are pretty prevalent in my daily life, sadly. I think that you can always be cured or always find a way to live with it in a way that you can still follow your dreams, your passions, still do something that you feel you are good at, still carve out peace of mind, a piece of happiness that you are craving so badly. And I personally believe that a lot of people that suffer from these things, because there's some kind of tendency that these people are just overreacting and they should just snap out of it. And if things like that are said to you, then I think that's really going to hinder your process of getting better. And that's why I'm also making this video, because I think it's very important to see that you're not alone, that you're not going crazy, that these things just happen under certain circumstances. I think that's very important to always realize that there's always a way out, and there's of course some tips that might help you, but each person has to find what works for them. And this can be a combination of either talk therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, or even medicine. And some medicine that are commonly given to treat anxiety are things like Xanax, things that actually just stop that anxious feelings, make you mellow, make you relaxed, but they don't really cure it. They're just suppressing these feelings. And some other medicine that can work or are given to people to actually cure it, to break out of this cycle, are either antidepressants or antipsychotic medicine. But it's very much possible to do it without, but it can also help to do it with these medicine. It's really all up to you and your personal strength and preference. But I do think that if you have the opportunity to do so, that if your anxieties are so severe and are impacting your life on such a deep level, that getting a therapist that you can talk to every week or every 2 weeks is going to be a really big help, especially if you've never had therapy before. Because of course you can talk to family, friends, people on the internet, and you can get a lot of support from that. You can't really expect these people to keep supporting you, because it's draining on them also. And that's something that I'm still learning, but I have realized that if you focus only on the negative and only talk about, oh, I'm feeling so bad, I'm feeling so anxious, that you are A, making it worse for yourself, and B, are pushing people away from you. It's not saying, oh, people, they're all mean or rude because they don't want to listen, but it's just very hard to focus on someone's problems like that, and to keep yourself from going down with them, to go with them in that anxiety. So I do believe that if you can get a professional involved in your healing process, that can be a really beneficial thing. I can give you some main tips, but I also want to talk about a book that has come out recently that will probably do a way better job at it than I could ever do. And that is the book called Hardcore Self-Help Fuck Anxiety it's written by Just a Whispering Guy, who is also an ASMR artist, and his real name is Robert Duff. And I don't know a lot about him. I've watched a lot of his videos, of course, they're great, but I don't know him as a person. But I think he's studying psychology, and he really does know a great deal about it. And he's also seen people around him suffer with anxiety, and he also had his own problems. And that, combined with his studies, is what he based his book around. And this book that he wrote is, it's basically a self-help book, but it's not your standard self-help book with like 100 steps that you have to follow, and just a really serious note and nothing like that. It's written really, when you read it, you feel like he's just talking to you as a normal human being, as a friend. He's just saying it how it is. And there is a lot of colorful language, which I personally like. People swear. This is what people do. So it's not done in a weird way or anything. I quite enjoy the tone of the book. And it's a pretty short book. I think it only has around 50 pages, and he just goes through a very structured setup of telling you more about what anxiety is, why we feel anxiety, what's the, from an evolutionary standpoint, what anxiety is. And he gives you some tips about how to counter a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and so what kind of help there is as far as therapies go, and even some medicine. But he basically just tells you what it is, and it can be very helpful because sometimes we, and I too, get so caught up in these symptoms that you have. You try to go through them individually, but it's good to realize that they're all part of this big encompassing thing that is anxiety, and worrying about all these individual symptoms isn't going to help you any. In fact, all it's going to do is make it worse for you, because the more you focus on it, the more you're going to feel it, because in the end it is a mental problem and not physically. And that's what I like about this book. If you've had anxiety for a while, like I have, you're not going to find an instant cure in this, because there's no instant cure, and especially not in a book. But it is nice to have something to go back to whenever you're feeling hopeless, like you're overwhelmed with what you're feeling, and it's just, you're not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a good book to pick up and, re-familiarize yourself with what anxiety is, and see that, I'm not going crazy, I'm not going to die, or anything like that. So it's on sale on Amazon, on both the American website and all the individual country websites, and I'll put the link in the description, but I think the price is around $3, which is incredibly cheap. And if you're going to make one investment in understanding your anxiety better and taking those steps toward feeling better, then I really, really recommend that you pick it up, or at least check it out, because for me it really helped me, get back on track. Like, oh right, it's just anxiety, I'm not, I don't have some weird unknown disease, because that's just a big fear that you can have, and it's not necessary to make it so hard on yourself. So yeah, I think Rob is a great guy for writing a book like this, and I think he's gonna make a series out of it, because the this book is really focused on just anxiety, but I think he has planned to also make some books, write some books about other mental disorders, and I will hopefully pick those up as well, because even if you don't suffer from anxiety, it can still be just great to learn about it and have some more understanding. And for example, if you have family members or friends that are going through it, it's also a good idea to read up on it. And yeah, that's my little review of his book. I'm not really sure what else to say. I'll probably make more videos about anxiety, because it's such sadly still such a prevalent thing in my life, even though I am moving forward. Sorry about that, my camera got cut off because the memory was full. But I just wanted to add that if you want to know anything more about anxiety or other mental disorders, like I said, I'm no professional, but I'm always, willing to talk about it. So if you have any requests for videos, or just want to drop me a line to talk about it, that's fine. But you do have to remember that I am just a girl on the internet, and if you do have severe problems with anxiety, depression, PTSD, stuff like that, I would advise you to reach out to people around you, and maybe even seek medical advice or therapy if you believe that could help you. But also, if you want to just ask about my progress, that's fine too. I try to be an open book here. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I will see